So, Elden Ring is a really good game, and I would go so far as to say that it's my favorite game of all time. But while it isn't exactly only my favorite game of all time, I definitely think that it's the best game of all time. You know, you've got the world building, the freedom, the challenge, and at least in my opinion, there's definitely no other games that have ever even remotely come close. And today I'm going to take a minor deep dive into why I think everyone should play Elden Ring at least once. So if you don't know, Elden Ring is an action RPG made by From Software. They made Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, Bloodborne, and Sekiro. And if you aren't a big fan of From Software, then you probably only recognize Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro, not including Elden Ring, because obviously you recognize Elden Ring because you're watching an Elden Ring video. And don't get me wrong, I get it. Elden Ring is really, really, really hard, but it's definitely not unfair, despite what some people might say, including me. The game gives you plenty of ways to make the game easier if that's what you need. You can either summon spirit ashes, or you can bulk up with super heavy armor and take barely any damage. I mean, hell, if you even want an easy mode without actually downloading an easy mode mod, you could just use magic. Magic is really overpowered in the game, and it even keeps you at a distance, which is something that I will again mention later. For example, when you start the game, you obviously get to choose a starting class, and if you're anything like me, it doesn't really matter what starting class you choose because you're gonna end up just throwing around massive pieces of rock anyways. But anyhow, I'm not actually going to cover every single starting class, but I definitely want to give you a little bit of insight of some of the main starting classes that I've always used, and then we'll go from there. Vagabond has the highest vigor stat, meaning that you start with more health, and more health is more gooder. Vagabond is also a sturdy warrior for those who want to tank hits and stay within the fight for longer. The hero starts with the highest strength stat, meaning that you do more damage with heavier strength scaling weapons. And this also means that brute force lovers will be able to swing massive weapons at their leisure pretty early in the game. The astrologer also starts with the highest intellect, which is definitely the mage character. Your staves also do more damage because they scale with intelligence, which makes your spells do more damage. Magic is also mainly ranged, so it's definitely the class that you'd want to start with if you're kind of scared to get near any of the bosses like I was when I first started. And last but definitely not least, or probably actually least, the Wretch is just 10s all across the board. You're at level 1, you have no armor, and the only weapon you have is big Ooga Booga stick. This is also the this is also the class that I started with to get footage for this video, and I had a really hard time early game. But anyways, while these classes do have their own advantages, the beauty of Elden Ring is that your starting class doesn't lock you into a single playstyle, unlike a lot of other RPGs where whatever you start with is kind of what you got for the whole game. Here, it's more of a starting point, a suggestion rather than a rule. You can start as an astrologer and end up wielding giant great swords, or you could start as a vagabond and say, maybe I don't want to get too close to fire giant right now. The flexibility is part of what makes Elden Ring so special. No matter how you begin, the world encourages experimentation, allowing you to forge your own path rather than forcing you down into one singular playstyle. The first boss that you'll likely meet is Margit, the Fell Omen. Now, this is not a lore video, so I'm not going to delve too deep into his character, but the important thing here is that this will most likely be your first roadblock, the first time that you realize that you're weak and you need to go do something to make this fight a little bit easier for you. And well, how do we do that? Well, one of the first characters that you meet that doesn't immediately want to kill you is Kale, the nomadic merchant, Kale. Now, I have a very special place in my heart for Kale for some cut content that I'm not going to be showing you here, but I'll link a video in the description by Vati Vidya. I love his video on the Frenzied Flame ending, and I think you all should definitely go watch it. So Kale has in his inventory a note titled The Flask of Wondrous Physic, and it reads, "A flask of wondrous physic is still at the Third Church of Marika, north of Mistwood. Cross the highway bridge and follow the animal trail north." Okay, fucking fantastic. Cool. So we have a whole new item that should 100% be able to help us. So we go there, we pick up the physic, and the physic tells us that you can use things called crystal tears, and you can mix it and you can make a different concoction that can help you out in some kind of fight. Well, what the fuck are crystal tears? Crystal tears are, I actually don't know what crystal tears are, but the important thing is that they grow at the bottom of minor Erd trees. Now, what the fuck is a minor Erd tree? Well, obviously, a minor Erd tree is an Erd tree that's smaller. So you look around and you end up finding this massive tree that has golden leaves. So you get on your horse and you make your way over there. When you get there, in a dish, I've had so much trouble with this. In a dish, there is a spiked cracked tier and a green spill crystal tier. These tiers can be put into your mixed physic to enhance your charged attacks and enhance your stamina regeneration, respectively. The note that Kale gave you also mentions a place called Mistwood, so getting on your horse and riding over to Mistwood, you end up finding the Axe Talisman. And for those of you who don't know, a talisman is like a little trinket that you can wear that gives you certain effects, and this Axe Talisman enhances your charged attacks. So there you go, you've got 3 things now that should help you in the fight. And if you've killed anything along the way, you should be able to level up. So you level up a little bit, you drink the physic, you have the charged attack tier, and you start beating the shit out of Margit. Funnily enough, I actually had to do even more to help me with this fight with Margit, because I had chosen the Wretch, and this is a class I had never chosen before, so I had a lot less to work with at the start of the game, so things were harder for me. So in my personal experience, for getting footage for this very video, I had to go get the Dectus medallions, both of them. I had to get Radigan's Sword Seal. I tried to get Bernal's armor, but he was just way too strong for me and was not having it. I left to get the Uchi Katana from the Death Touch Catacombs, found out that I couldn't use it because my stats were too low. I ran through Liurnia, grabbed the Academy Key, ran through Raya Lucaria, jumped down the side path, grabbed the Carrion Knight armor, and I was finally ready to fight Margit. All while I was doing this, I was picking up golden seeds when I could, and I even had to summon Roger. But this is what makes Elden Ring so brilliant. It doesn't hold your hand, but it subtly guides you towards ways to overcome challenges. The game doesn't pop up with a tutorial saying, hey, go get these items so that you can fight Margit easier. Instead, it encourages exploration, rewarding curiosity with tools that make the fight more manageable. And the best part, this experience isn't unique to Margit, it's the foundation of the entire game. Every time you hit a wall, there's always something out there to give you an edge, whether it's a talisman, a new weapon, or just a better understanding of how whatever boss fight you're stuck on works. Elden Ring doesn't force you to level up, but it does invite you to get stronger in whichever way suits you. That's why every victory in this game feels earned. You didn't just grind levels until you became over-leveled, although you can definitely do that, but what I did is that I explored and I adapted and I found my own way forward. And now I was on to Godric, and I was having a pretty good time doing damage, but for some reason, I couldn't get the timing right with some of his moves, so I said fuck it, and I left, and I went to go get some stuff. And what I did go get was I went to go get more flasks. So on my way to Margit, I picked up a golden seed and realized that I could put this in my flask, and it increases the amount of times that I can heal, so there's got to be more of these. Now, most players will not do this on their first run, but this is what I did, because I've played this game many times before. So I had already gotten the Dectus medallion, so all I had to do was walk through the seal at Raya Lucaria, get to the Dectus lift, and ride the Dectus lift up. And now I was in Altus. I ran into Outer Lane Dell, I grabbed the 4 golden seeds, not to mention the other 2 golden seeds that are around Raya Lucaria, and now I had more than enough flasks to push me through the Godric fight, including Nefeli Lu, and all of this took me like 30 minutes max. I mean, from the start of the game, getting everything I needed up to the point where I could actually beat Godric, that only took me like 30 minutes. Maybe 45 if you're stupid like I am and you get sidetracked on some dumb shit. Every challenge has multiple solutions and the game never tells you which one to take. You could bash your head against Godric until you perfect every dodge, or you could take a short detour, gather some resources, and come back stronger. The game doesn't force you down a single path, it lets you kind of carve out your own. And the best part is, every time you explore, you're not just making this one fight easier, you're setting yourself up for the entire journey ahead. Maybe while grabbing those golden seeds you find a new weapon, or a powerful spell, or you find an NPC with an interesting questline like Raya, who takes you to Volcano Manor, and that's even more exploration. That's why it never feels like grinding to me at least. Even when you're preparing for a tough fight, you're not mindlessly farming enemies, even though you can absolutely do that if you wanted to. But for me, I always go discover and I grow and I master the world on my own terms. Now again, this isn't a lore video, but I do think that everyone will agree with me when I say that if I don't care about a story for the game that I'm playing, I'm not gonna play that game. And the story of Elden Ring is constantly keeping me on my toes, and even after playing the game over 30 times, I'm still finding new things. Hell, I still, to this day, haven't been to Jarburg. I just I just kind of keep forgetting. And not to mention how much I was screaming and pissing myself when I was fighting the final boss of the DLC, which again, no spoilers here, but holy shit. The world building here is phenomenal. Do you know why GeoGuessr is so hard for a game like Elden Ring? Because it's too easy to know where you are because of just how distinct all of the areas are. Limgrave is green and has ruins dotted around the landscape. Weeping Peninsula is the same as Limgrave, but it's more dense and it rains more. Caelid is red and wrecked with scarlet rot and has dragons kind of dotted around because of Dragon Barrel. Liurnia is wet and is almost always raining while having this slight little hints of blue because of the mist. Raya Lucaria is enigmatic, surrounded with rock with a hue of blue mana constantly floating around in the air. It also looks a lot like Hogwarts and it's one of my favorite areas in the game. Mount Gelmir is the outer edge of a volcano and looks as such, having a rocky and gray hue. Volcano Manor is surrounded by lava and obviously has a hue of this dark red and magma. Altus Plateau is yellow with mixes of gray and brown. It's also the first time you actually get close to the Erd tree and you can finally sense the magnitude of this tree. Leyndell is the golden capital covered in rays of the Erd tree. It's also my favorite area in the game and I never have a bad time sometimes. Most of the time I never have any kind of problems running through Leyndell, but I just like being in Leyndell. It makes me happy. Mountaintops of the Giants is white with snow and has dead giants everywhere. So I don't know if I got this in the footage, but there's also a high contrast of red in this area, hinting at things to come. Farum Azula is tan and gray with tornadoes and ruin walls kind of suspended in the air. You can also see more dragons here than you can anywhere else. There's also a massive tornado in the center of the area. Consecrated Snowfield is the same as Mountaintops, but the first half of the area you're blinded by a blizzard and it's difficult to navigate. There are also gigantic spires of these light blue ice. And last but absolutely not least, Mikola's Haligtree. Beige in a sort of pinkish color coat the Haligtree. It also has these thin, weak bridges that connect certain portions of the Haligtree, and the deeper you go, the more red that it becomes, hinting at a certain Empyrean hiding at the base of the Haligtree. Every area in Elden Ring has its own distinct atmosphere, challenges, and rewards, making exploration constantly engaging. But what truly ties it all together is how seamless the world is connected, whether you're scaling the peaks of mountaintops or delving into the depths of Nokron. Wait a minute, I forgot to mention Nokron and Nokstella. Okay, so there's a reason that I didn't do that, and it's because I kind of just want you to go experience it on your own. They're pretty incredible places to see, and I would hate to be the first time that anybody sees like these giant eternal cities that are underground. So go play the game and go find Nokron or Nokstella. But anyways, at the end of the day, Elden Ring is not just a game, it's an experience. The freedom and the challenge and the sense of discovery, it all comes together to create something truly special. Every death teaches you something, every victory feels earned, and every path you take leads you to an adventure uniquely your own. No matter how many times you play, you'll always find something new, a hidden boss or an obscure NPC questline or a weapon that completely changes how you approach combat. And that's the beauty of it. Hell, I even have a character that's level 713, the absolute max level. And every time I enter a new game plus, I play the game differently. Like recently, I played with only a spear, or the time before that, I played with the hook claws. I mean, hell, I've done a frost build, I've done lightning builds, I've done fire builds, I've done sleep builds. There are so many ways for you to play this game that there is no reason for anyone to not complete it at least once in their life. It doesn't just give you a world to explore, it gives you the tools to shape your own journey. And that's why, in my opinion, Elden Ring isn't just the best game of its time, it's the best game of all time. I love you guys, and I will see you all in the next video.